Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Football RPG. I'm Mike, that's Evan, and you may notice there's a handsome gentleman down there. It's the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles teaming up with the Teen Titans, all of the teens. But this time we have grown men talking about players to avoid, and we have Alfredo Brown from Football Guys. How are you doing, man?
What's up, man? I'm great. That's I haven't been referred to as anything resembling a teenager in a long time, so I don't know if I should feel complimented or insulted, but either way, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Mike.
I was more just going for the crossover episodes. You remember the good ones on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon?
Good ones, man. The good ones. There was like a Ninja Turtles meet Batman animated movie that came out, and I was just like, oh, this is what like 8-year-old Alfredo really wants to see.
That would have been awesome. I think I was like 6 at the time, and my mom said I couldn't watch it, so I'll have to go back. But tonight we're going to talk.
Being old is.
Yeah, it's tough. We're going to talk about some players that you guys should be avoiding in your 2025 drafts. This is purely redraft focused, so if you're looking for dynasty stuff, head over, check out Evan's deep dives on the running backs, mine on the quarterbacks, David's on the wide receivers. We're trying to get a bunch of those up before the season starts, so you know who to buy, sell, and hold. But Alfredo, you do more than hang out with me on Tuesday nights. What do you do? Where can people find you? Like, you do a lot of great work, and I think they should give you some love.
Yeah, well, of course, I mean, everyone can always find my work over at Football Guys, and you can follow me on all of the social media platforms at Alfredo A. Brown. I host the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show with Dave Kluge, and right now we just finished our Dynasty month, and we're heading into redraft territory. We're going from like 1 episode a week. Eventually we'll get to 2, 3, 4 and do that whole thing. And then also I host a show called Unbinged, where we talk about all of the biggest and best latest movies and shows, our favorite characters. We recently did something about how if can this new Harry Potter series survive all the hate? There's been like weird castings for that. So like we just do a bunch of fun, nerdy stuff there. So trying to do a little bit of everything and staying in that content game.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I like seeing the clips on Twitter or X, whatever people call it. But people want to talk about players to avoid. And Alfredo, you came in hot here. You came in spicy. Who is your quarterback to avoid in 2025?
Hot, man. Hot might be an understatement. I don't know. I feel like it shouldn't be that hot. Like, we should understand at this point, Patrick Mahomes is not the guy that we've gotten used to in the past. Like, the shine is sort of worn off, especially when it comes to a fantasy standpoint. I mean, Mahomes last year was quarterback 11 in terms of points per game. And I understand you can point at all the different injuries that they had and not having Rashee Rice for certain periods of time. And then you've got Xavier who's coming up. But guys, it's not like it's going to be all that different this year. Travis Kelce's another year older. And like, I don't know about you. Like, I'm around Travis Kelce's age. Dude, I can barely hit the gym without being in pain. So like him running around doing the things he's doing on the field, like I think that there's going to be that steep drop off that we all dread for these older pass catchers, especially at the tight end spot. Xavier was fine. There's a lot to his game that I think needs to improve. Rashee Rice, we still don't know what's going to happen with him in terms of the legal issues that are there. And honestly, the run game might actually get revamped with a healthy Isaiah Pacheco back. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks still up there with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the fact that Patrick Mahomes is a guy that's still being drafted in the early rounds, and I oftentimes see him as like quarterback 5, quarterback 6. I don't want that. You can get the same thing out of whoever the 12th, 13th, and sometimes even 14th or 15th quarterback that's getting drafted. So yeah, I'm going to be waiting as long as I can on quarterback. I said that last year. I wanted a guy like Geno Smith specifically. He ended up being a really good pick for me at quarterback. And I think I'm going to go back to that well.
Yeah, we did this in our quarterback rankings episode. Once you get past, the Josh Allen, the Jalen Hurts, the Jaden Daniels, all those guys that you're really excited about, then it's just punt all the way to like QB 19. Like, is Trevor Lawrence really that much worse than Patrick Mahomes for fantasy this year?
Right.
I don't know. I think what's also interesting with Mahomes, I'm trying to look up his rushing stats. When is the last time that he has had any kind of rushing floor? 2021?
It's been a minute. Let me look at that too, because I know it's one of my favorite things to do is get the prop bet of like Mahomes reaching his rushing yardage, but that number keeps getting lower and lower and lower. Yep. And there's always that one play where it's like, Mahomes gave him the old razzle dazzle and got that 8 yards he needed for the first down, and we always remember that. I think that's what happens to players like Mahomes is they get that one big play where Chris Collinsworth, now here's a guy. And it makes its way around, and we're like, man, he's good. He's good. And then we look at the fantasy points per game, and we're like, quarterback 16. Cool.
Yep.
Like, that didn't really help me as much as I thought it would.
Yeah, I did look it up. He has never had more than 400 rushing yards in a season, and he had 389 in 2023 and 307 in 2024. Like, that's not what you need to be an anchor for your quarterback. If you want to get a pocket passer, there's other options, which leads me to my next guy, Baker Mayfield. He's going off the board somewhere between QB6 and QB9, depending on where you're drafting. We do this every single year. We take a pocket passing quarterback. We see them absolutely explode the year prior, and we say, okay, that's going to happen again. Are we sure that Baker's going to do it again? Yes, they drafted Emeka Egbuka, but they lost their offensive coordinator. There's some changes going on there. I don't think it's a predictable stat that Baker Mayfield is all of a sudden going to pretend that he's Kyler Murray again, have his best rushing season of his career. There's a lot of ways that this can go poorly, and you're drafting him at a point where he is in that elite tier of quarterbacks, and that's just not my cup of tea. Okay. Everyone is on board with Baker Mayfield being stinky. Appreciate that. But Evan, who is your quarterback that you want to avoid?
Yeah, well, thanks, Mike. You already gave him a mention, already gave him a shout out here. It is Kyler Murray. Look, you look at the last 5 seasons, 17 games, 8 games, 11 games, 14 games, then 16. Back when he was QB2 in fantasy back in 2020. You know, those days back in 2020. Oh, boy.
Good days.
That's a long time ago, Mike. What, were you just graduating college?
Okay. I'm not that young.
All right. So Kyler Murray's in here. Look, the injury question is always going to be a thing with Kyler Murray. You're always going to wonder whether he's going to be able to give you enough games at the quarterback position to really be fantasy viable. There's no way he's capping 4,000 yards passing. If he's not going to cap 4,000 yards passing, I have a hard time taking him, especially when he's not going to cap 700 rushing yards, because I find that next to impossible looking at Kyler Murray, looking at him wanting to try and stay healthy. You pair all of that together, you're going to have to tell me that he's going to have a 30 passing touchdown season with a 10 rushing touchdown season, and I just don't see that. You look at what they did in the draft. They went very heavy on defense. They really didn't get him much at all on offense to be able to assist there. James Conner's another year older. The immortal James Conner, though, he will always continue producing as a grimy old running back for your fantasy team. But this is quarterbacks right now, and I do not think Kyler Murray is worth his QB9 price that he is currently going at.
I like Kyler compared to the names around him, but I don't like Kyler compared to the names maybe another tier lower. Like, if you told me Kyler Murray ends up as the QB9 on the season, like, that's fantastic, but there's probably names in the QB 12 to 20 range that could finish QB 10, and you're saving 10 rounds of ADP and getting a very similar product. Alfredo, do you have thoughts on Kyler?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I know we're talking redraft here, but my co-host and I, Dave Kluge, we recorded something about dynasty quarterbacks today, and we did tiers, and we were talking about, trade values for these quarterbacks, and there was a tier where we called it the most volatile tier, where all of these quarterbacks are either going to shoot up in value or just the bottom's going to fall out. But there was one guy in that tier that we're like, honestly, he's probably just going to be here again next year, and that was Kyler, because you kind of know what your rushing floor is, you kind of know what your passing ceiling is. Like, he's got to almost revamp his game entirely, and that's not something that I necessarily see in a Drew Petzing offense there for the Arizona Cardinals. We would have to see a just monumental jump from Marvin Harrison Jr., which I'm down with that. Like, I think it could happen, but I don't know that I see that for this Cardinals offense. They really like to commit to that run.
Let's just get Trey McBride some touchdowns. That'll help Kyler Murray.
Please.
Everyone will be happy. But that's enough on the quarterbacks. Let's talk about running backs. Alfredo, you're going to make me sad. Just make all of us sad. Talk about an old running back.
Listen, man, it has nothing to do with how talented this player is. I just can't draft Christian McCaffrey this year. I can't do it. And there's going to be so much discourse on this through the next few months of whether or not you can trust him. And honestly, none of us truly know if we can trust the body and the ailments of Christian McCaffrey. And that's all I need to not draft him. He could end up being 100% healthy and awesome. He's a great pick at the end of the first, early second where he's going on that turn. I can't trust him and take him there because if we do run into a similar injury issue, which these injury issues have been piling up over the years, and especially now at his age, that's it. Like my fantasy team is wiped out. And especially now, I think we want to say we know who the handcuff should be, that it should be Isaac Gurindo in San Francisco, but they also go and they draft Jordan James, who I really liked as well as a rookie. So like there's a lot that could be going on there that we don't know. And also who knows what other medical information the Niners might find out as we keep going in through the preseason, where another veteran gets cut from a team and they say, you know what, Raheem Mostert, you were good for us a few years back. Come on back over here, buddy. We're going to run a 3-man committee because we don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to be able to handle this. So like there's a lot that could be going on there. I look at the other running backs going around that area. It's not much later. It's just like 4 picks later. I would take Josh Jacobs over Christian McCaffrey at this point. I know that sounds kind of weird to say. I trust that Jacobs is going to be able to stay healthy and that the Packers are going to continue to run the ball. Kyron Williams is another guy. I know that they drafted Jarquez Hunter, but I mean, Devon Achane seems like an easy alternative to Christian McCaffrey, especially where they're going. So yeah, I like all these other running backs over McCaffrey, especially at their cost.
Yeah, I think the thing with McCaffrey, there used to be a saying where you can't win your fantasy league in your first round, but you can lose it. I think McCaffrey's one of the few guys you can actually win your league if he stays healthy, if he plays all of the games, and he hits his ceiling like we have in years past. Like he can score 80 more points than the RB2.
Right.
Can 29-year-old Christian McCaffrey coming off of double Achilles injuries do that? I don't know. I like this pick. I'm going to keep drafting him in best ball because it makes me feel good.
Oh yeah. In best ball, where I mean, you can take these swings, by all means do it. When I'm walking into like my home league redraft and it's my buddies and I'm like, man, everything is on the line with this second pick for my fantasy team, or depending where I'm at, maybe the first pick, and I'm sitting at that 12 spot, like I can't do it.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than getting a text from your buddy like, oh, way to pick McCaffrey, and then he gets hurt in the preseason. You're like, oh,
right.
Thanks, Garrett. I'm going to talk about a younger running back who there's been a lot of steam in. Listen, I love him for Dynasty. Evan knows that I've been smacking the table saying draft him. But if you're going to draft him, lower your expectations for this year. It's Omarion Hampton. The Chargers went out. They got Najee Harris, a steady, reliable veteran who can do all of the things that you need a 3-down back to do. And then they go and they spend a first-round pick on Omarion Hampton. History will tell us first-round running backs are supposed to cook. I don't think a first-round running back has had as good of competition as Najee Harris. I'm not saying Najee's like the best running back in the league, but he is a very reliable guy. I think he starts the season slow. And for your redraft leagues, you want to draft guys that are going to spike in value over the first month of the season, not depress it. So Hampton's going to be one of those guys I will not be drafting a lot of, but I will be sending trade offers out week 6, week 7, trying to get him on my roster for that post-bye week bump. Do you guys think that Hampton just completely beats out Najee and is the clear-cut bell cow?
I would say that probably happens later in the year, to the point where he's one of those guys that I don't feel comfortable drafting at ADP, because there's going to be a lot of those people that expect that out the gate. And I think that what we're going to see is obviously that splitting of touches early in the season. Now, where he becomes really valuable for you is those final 6-7 weeks of the season when they're like, you know what, let's give this kid some more touches. And honestly, there's a good shot that the person that drafted him doesn't like what they're seeing early in the season, and players like that get dropped all the time or traded for a bag of beans. Like it just happens in fantasy leagues. And those are the kind of players I love to go after. The ones that are getting steamed up in ADP for drafts, and then they have a really disappointing first 3 or 4 weeks, and that person is panicking because now they are 0-3 or 0-4. And I'm like, cool, I'll take your Omarion Hampton. Let's do it. Let's make that trade.
Yeah. Big fan. Evan, break some hearts.
Yeah, my running back that I chose for this segment was Jonathan Taylor. Frankly, I was shocked to see him as the consensus position RB5, going 15th overall off the board. There are so many questions going with this pick. You look at one, injury history. Once again, when has he played a full season? The last full season, 2021. That's an issue for me. All right. You pair that with the fact that the offensive line got markedly worse this offseason, moving on from their center, moving on from their right guard. You're going to have to run to the left side. You're going to have a very strong left side of the line, but the right side up the middle, it's big question mark. It's a lot bigger of a question mark than it has been the past 3-4 years, honestly, for Indianapolis. Then you add in the fact that we still really don't know what Richardson is. Is he actually a quarterback? Is he a running back disguised as a quarterback? Who knows at this point? But if he continues to struggle throwing the football, all the more reason for people to roll an extra player down into the box, making it just that much harder for Taylor to be able to pick up the yardage. You look at his receiving game, he really hasn't been a big receiving threat throughout his career, throughout recently specifically. You look at what he did at Wisconsin. Wisconsin back then really wasn't a receiving threat type of running back out of the backfield role either. But you pair all of that together, and without getting the receiving work, it's really hard for me to see him having another 1,400 plus yard season running the football with double-digit touchdowns. And that just does not make for an RB5 for me. Honestly, I have him barely cracking an RB1 this coming season.
Okay. The receiving concerns, very valid. But Alfredo, I'll toss this over to you. It's your home league. It's with all your buddies. You really want to win this one. You're on the clock. You're staring at both Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. Which way are you going?
Pass. Josh
Okay.
Jacobs. No, I'm just
All
kidding.
right.
If I have to choose between one of these guys, where am I picking at? Where is this, like,
Let's call
end
it
of the first?
the very beginning of the second. Both, McCaffrey fell a little bit. JT's getting steamed up boards because he had a cool training camp clip or something.
Gosh, man. I think I'm a little more willing to go with Jonathan Taylor here because I don't know that Anthony Richardson keeps the job. And maybe we get some of like the Daniel Jones checkdowns, but I don't feel confident really saying that. Like, I'm also very worried about Jonathan Taylor here too. I mean, you got Anthony Richardson taking touches at the goal line already, but now they go and they get a tight end, Tyler Warren, who does kind of the same thing.
Yep.
So it's just, even if he's taking one or two valuable running touches away from Jonathan Taylor, which seems crazy to say, it's enough that it could marketably make a difference. If he's getting 2 less touchdowns a year because of Tyler Warren and then like 3 or 4 less touchdowns a year because of Anthony Richardson, yeah, I'm a little scared.
Very fair. So it seems like the answer here is Josh Jacobs or Devon Achane. And I like those answers. But, all right. So running backs for the Void, we got Christian McCaffrey, Omarion Hampton, Jonathan Taylor. Are there any other guys that you want to shout out? Anyone you just really hate, or do you guys want to move to wide receivers?
Oh, I don't like to be this negative.
Okay.
I'll be negative about another position. I just don't want to keep hating on the same ones over and over.
Let's hate on tight ends later, but let's move on to wide receivers. So Alfredo, this hurts my feelings because I traded for him in a dynasty league with Evan last year. So it worked out well then, but now I'm scared.
Well, okay. Terry McLaurin ends up having his best fantasy season of his career. Everything went right for Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels. And this is something I talked about recently on the show. Cliff Kingsbury does this really well with rookie quarterbacks. He makes things simple for them. They're able to succeed. He did that with Kyler Murray. Now, the difference is I think Jaden Daniels is a much better passer. I think this is a much better NFL quarterback than Kyler Murray has ever been. I think Terry McLaurin is better than any wide receiver that was with Kyler Murray over there in the Cardinals. Okay, let me take that back. DeAndre Hopkins was there. I forgot about that.
And I think, did he overlap with ancient Larry Fitz at all?
I don't think so. Did he?
Might have been really old.
I don't know.
Yeah, what you're saying.
So the thing that happened here was Terry McLaurin was having himself a good season. He ends up finishing wide receiver 15 in points per game. So much of that comes from, he scored 6 touchdowns in a 4-week span. And what so many of us remember was that it happened during the ever so important end of the season and beginning of the fantasy playoffs. And whenever a player has a good performance during that pivotal time of year, man, we love them. We gas them up in drafts. And not saying it is a killer by any means, but the Commanders did go out and add Deebo Samuel, who's going to be taking some of these targets away. You have to think that they probably want to get their young tight end Ben Sinnott involved a little bit. I'm not like a massive believer in Ben Sinnott, but you got to think they want to use him a bit more than they did last year. Even at the running back spot, I mean, Austin Eckler still remains a pass catching threat. There's just enough reasons here for me to say I like the production we got from Terry McLaurin. We just didn't always see the volume from him. Like there's his box score last year, the game log is littered with games of 3 targets, 2 targets, 6 targets. That's not a guy that I want to be drafting as a top 12, top 15 wide receiver and expect that. I think we got to see what the ceiling was. I think it's a lot more likely that he's finishing somewhere back around wide receiver 20, wide receiver 24 like he has in years past. So I don't love the current ADP now.
That makes a ton of sense. Are there other names? Sorry to put you on the spot, but in that range where guys are going, like, would you rather target like a Tet McMillan, a Jamison Williams, someone like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking at Teteroa McMillan as a guy that I think is just going to get absolutely peppered with targets. I think Jalen Waddle's still an interesting player as well that I think is just dropping down draft boards. And I don't know if it's just like a Dolphins thing or whatever people are worried about as well. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, I'm interested in seeing what kind of discount we get on Rashee Rice based on whatever suspension he might have. Like there's a lot of these players that are going around the same area that I'm pretty comfortable with over Terry McLaurin at this point.
That's fair. I was excited about Terry McLaurin for this season because I went back and I looked at how rookie quarterbacks impact wide receivers over time. And basically, if you're a rookie quarterback, you either need to set records or be marginally better than ancient Cam Newton, and then you will make your receivers better.
Right.
So hopefully Jaden Daniels takes a step forward, gets really exciting, like is able to support Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel into the fantasy goal that we want. Or he has a CJ Stroud slump. He has a little bit of a setback. Maybe the Cliff Kingsbury offense, because it's so simple, gets more predictable. There's a lot of ways this goes wrong. So I like the call out.
Yeah, and there's some other guys. I was actually just looking at it right now. There's some other guys that are in that area. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I'd rather have over Terry McLaurin this year. Devontae Adams, another older wide receiver that's going to be in a new spot where I just think like they're not only is he going to have the target volume, but those targets are going to be so valuable in that Rams offense. So I just think there's just a ton of other guys that I'd rather have at that spot.
That's fair. I am going to break some Dynasty brain hearts. I still like this player for Dynasty. Don't get me wrong, but Xavier Worthy is going off the board as a top 24 wide receiver right now. Just going to read some stats from 2024 for you. So he was 63rd in target rate. He was 55th in target share, 48th in air yards, 59th in air yard share, 40th in receptions. Like he had 638 yards, and we're drafting him as a wide receiver too. Yes, there's a world where he takes a big step forward and him and Patrick Mahomes finally connect on those deep balls. But there's also a world where the fastest player in the NFL can't track the ball very well down the field, and it leads to a sustained problem. We're always excited, and we really want to see this breakout, and he's just better in a short yardage gadget role, but that's not good for fantasy. You don't want your receiver taking handoffs because you don't get that 1 point per reception there. Nothing the Chiefs did this offseason makes me think, they really want to go bombs away and continue to win in that way. They drafted Jalen Royals, who might be a short-term Rashee replacement if they need that. Rashee Rice is coming back. Travis Kelce's a little older. They're not really trying to go bombs away with their system. They want to continue to win with good defense. Patrick Mahomes being very responsible quarterback, which stinks because in 2021 we wanted him to have 50 touchdowns every single season for the rest of his career. I think if we're fading Mahomes at cost, you should probably be fading Worthy at cost. Like, there's not a ton of ways that this goes well, especially for a managed league. We're going to have to guess, when is Xavier Worthy going to have those 2 touchdowns? If you guys can tell me that would be great. Like, please text me the day before. But do you guys, is this a good call out? Do you think Worthy takes a big step forward, or how are we feeling here?
Yeah, I don't think he takes a big step forward, honestly. You look at the variables in this offense. You look at the fact that Andy Reid still wants to spread the ball around. You pair all of that together with a quarterback that has a very good defense still, and they know that. Like, they want to thrive through this defense. Patrick Mahomes is smart enough to not be making mistakes with the football in his hands. So why would you expect a big season out of Xavier Worthy because of all those factors?
Yep. It's really just knowing when to start him for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that are very similar to Xavier Worthy. Like, if I want that exact same experience, right? Like, I want to have the same lunch, I can go to a cheaper restaurant and I can get Jamison Williams a full almost round and a half later. Give me that. I'm way more excited about that. You mentioned Teteroa McMillan before. That's another guy that's going later than Xavier Worthy. And I think that the volume is going to give you a much more consistent floor with still some upside, because we saw Bryce Young play really well towards the end of the season. Xavier Worthy is another one of those guys. Had a really strong end of the year. And too often we allow those end of season games, those breakouts late, to prop up players in ADP. And then we're always kicking ourselves and we're always disappointed that they don't match the expectations of some crazy 3 or 4 touchdown streak that they had across 2 or 3 games towards the end of the year.
Yep. Even worse, I mean, think about the only positive Chiefs plays from the Super Bowl. Xavier Worthy. Catching a deep ball down by a bunch. And they're like, oh, maybe there's still some life. Obviously there wasn't, but that's what people remember. And now just go get another deep threat a little later.
Mike, don't remind me of that play, because I had a Devontae Smith paired in on a parlay with longest touchdown for Devontae Smith in that game. And Xavier Worthy doing that cost me so much money. It was a nice hit that I was feeling great about. Yeah. And man, that one hurt.
I have a number you can call if you need it. But let's talk about I am the dad for Lad, Evan. Why are you trying to tell me that dads for Lad should chill out?
Yeah, you are the dad for Lad, beautiful baby girl, now that you're the father of Mike. But look, Lad McConkey, I watched a lot of Georgia football being down in the South here in college, and the best trait is availability. He was available a lot last year. And college, that was very much less the case. It was tough when he wasn't on the field. So is it repeatable? There's a big question of whether that's actually going to be a repeatable season for Lad McConkey. You'll see, I mean, every single one of my picks has been health-based. If you're going to talk about a redraft team for me, I'm looking for guys that are going to be healthy for the season, even if it means that there's slightly less upside, because I know that I'm going to be able to have them. I'm not going to have to go digging on the waiver wire to try and find waiver wire gold, because the percentages of those actually hitting, very low. You pair that with the fact that Herbert's a great quarterback, but they just spent major draft capital in Hampton. They just also took Keandre Lambert-Smith, former Penn State and Auburn wide receiver.
We're just skipping over Trey Harris.
Add to the wide receiver room and Trey Harris. I was getting there, Mike, but I got to shout out.
He gave him the and treatment. He's like the Robert De Niro of the wide receiver room. He gets the and treatment at the end of the cast list.
Yeah, exactly here, Trey Harris also being added along with Mike Williams, if I'm not mistaken here. Also coming back, the corpse of Mike Williams. Yes, I know. Very exciting. But they clearly noticed that this was a need for this offseason, and they did a lot of things this offseason to be able to try and address the position. Now, that just means that there's more people that are going to be run out there at wide receiver to be able to just chisel away death by 1,000 cuts at Lad McConkey.
I think what's interesting about their offseason moves is that they did not address the position in a Lad McConkey clone. It's big outside winner in Trey Harris, used to be an outside winner in Mike Williams. Keandre Lambert-Smith can move a little bit, but the day 3 receiver there. Lad McConkey is their slot, and he is going to get their high-value targets there. I understand the health concerns, but I will never stop drafting Lad McConkey because I love him, and that's all that matters at the end of the day for your redraft leagues. Alfredo, where are you on the Lad McConkey side?
Yeah, I'll say this for Lad McConkey. It's one of those things that was something I noticed or noted, excuse me, in my rookie scouting report of him that, man, misses a lot of time. I'm worried. Can he stay healthy for a full season? And that was one of the reasons where I really wasn't taking him at the point where he was getting steamed up last year. And I looked so stupid doing that last year. I'm trying to keep that in mind again this year because now the price point is very different. I mean, where we've got him listed here at wide receiver 10, like that's a guy that you're probably taking with let's call it your second or third pick for your fantasy team. So it's once again, it's one of these guys. Everyone always says as a fantasy analyst, you can't try to analyze what the intangible, what you can't control or what you don't know, which ends up being medical. Guys, we have to. We have to be able to do that. If players have track records of getting injured, you have to be able to do that. I mean, we need to be able to analyze these players in any way that we can. And yeah, I'm a little bit nervous of can he last for a full season, but while he's on that field, Mike, I'm 100% with you. This is going to be the target funnel. This is the same Keenan Allen that we had for Justin Herbert in that slot position. There's just a tendency that Herbert has. It's a reason why I kind of like Omarion Hampton for later in the year because we're going to get those checkdowns to the running back. But I think Herbert has shown us who he is. Hit the slot, hit the running back. These are the guys he's going to be going after. So while McConkey's out there, he's going to be great. I just don't know that I want him at wide receiver 10. This is maybe being a little too picky. I probably want him closer to like wide receiver 12 or 13, something like that.
That's fair. I mean, that 12 or 13, that's a half round, and it's a little easier to stomach late in the third instead of, late in the second. But
yeah,
I would be remiss if, Alfredo, I didn't bring this up. Who is the wide receiver 2 in Los Angeles? Tell Dave for us, please.
Tell Dave. No, don't make me do that. I don't want to say it.
No, I just need to know for my fantasy drafts.
Mike Williams. There you go.
Okay,
write it down.
Perfect. For those of you that don't know,
yes.
On the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show, Alfredo is a Trey Harris hater. Dave is a Trey Harris lover, and it's constant. You guys should go listen to them. Alfredo crushes
I think he's fine. I'm
We'll
talking about
fine.
Dave, by the way. Dave's fine.
Yeah.
Dave's fine.
Trey Harris is not.
No. Honestly, I am rooting for the guy. Like, I hope he does well. It's a really good fit. This is what the Chargers have wanted for so long. It's exactly what Mike Williams used to do. What always worries me about a guy like Trey Harris and these players that go into the NFL, man, is that, like, you need to be able to hit the ground running. And I mean that quite literally. You need to be able to run routes with the best of them. And if your coaches have to teach you how to run routes throughout camp, that's going to slow down your progression of learning the playbook and all kinds of things. And if you're not getting open, it's going to eliminate your play time. So I worry that he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be a specialist. Give me 3 routes, do these 3 things. Let's get you some busted coverages deep. And I worry, and this is another guy I wasn't too fond of coming out, I worry we're looking at just another Quentin Johnston all over again for the Chargers.
Yeah. What's nice about Trey Harris is the 3 things that he can do should be good for our fantasy teams, knowing when to start him and when they'll connect on those. Not so much, but let's talk everybody's least favorite position, or, Coop's favorite position. We had him on to do tight end rankings, but let's talk about 3 tight ends to avoid. Alfredo, tell us why you hate Mark Andrews.
Okay, well, that's strong. That's strong. I wouldn't say that I hate Mark.
He's listening. Mark Andrews is
I'm sure he
avid
is.
fan
Mark,
of the show.
Mark, you're a great guy. I'm sure you are. You're fantastic. I would say that even he doesn't know when he's going to score a touchdown. And it's another one of these players that great touchdown luck late in the season. I remember going through week 5 and people had dropped Mark Andrews. He gave us back-to-back zeros. We were talking about how Isaiah Likely was the new tight end on this team. And by the way, Isaiah Likely is still there. And then the team goes out and they add DeAndre Hopkins, who, listen, I get it. He's older. That's going to be still a few more targets taken away from Mark Andrews and another guy savvy enough to get open around the goal line. So we have enough of these players that are going to be taking away not just targets, but valuable targets away from Mark Andrews. And I'm counting it up right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns over his final 6 games. And then even in those final 6 games, he was never a top 4 tight end. He had 1 game as tight end number 5. Every other game, he was tight end 8, tight end 9. And those are ceiling plays for Mark Andrews. But we're out here and he's getting drafted as a top 6, top 7 tight end. we saw the ceiling, guys. It was tight end 8 because he had to score a touchdown, and it's just the volume's not there like it used to be. It's one of these players that we're living off name value, and I think you see a trend here with me. It's older players that had a lot of touchdown luck late in the season, or there's health concerns at their age. And honestly, Mark Andrews kind of has the trifecta of all of these things. It's the health concerns, it's competition, it was touchdown luck. He's getting a little bit older. There's all these things together that, once again, it's kind of like the quarterback spot at tight end. I either want to get one of the elite guys up early or just wait and take someone later.
Yeah. In a very similar realm to touchdown luck, I'm going to talk about somebody who had touchdown luck 2 years ago, and now we drafted him as tight end 1 coming into 2024, and then it didn't work out, and then we're steaming him up boards again because what if there's a bounce back? What if things are good? I mean, Sam LaPorta, fantastic tight end. If I'm building an NFL team, he is accurately priced. Tight end 4 is a great spot for him. But his usage isn't one that we're really excited about for fantasy. That they have him blocking on passing snaps. They have him in line. He's not moving around and getting a lot of, consolidated targets in a way that we want to see there. If you're going to pay up for a tight end, like go get Trey McBride, go get Brock Bowers, although Evan's going to break hearts, go get George Kittle. This feels like somebody that we're still reaching on, but you're not getting the same ceiling where he can be the tight end 1 and run away with it. He could finish as the tight end 1, and this clip could look very silly, but he's not going to be the tight end 1 by 50 points, 60 points. He's not going to be a valuable difference maker. He might squeak past by 0.2 points and be really exciting there. But here's some names that are going around him, not just tight ends, because I think we agree there's, David Njoku. We said Mark Andrews, maybe Johnny Smith if he stays. There are some other tight ends later, although I just named 3 terrible examples that can offer you the same ceiling as Sam LaPorta. But at cost, you can either get Sam LaPorta or Evan. Would you like James Conner?
Yeah.
Alfredo, would you like George Pickens or Jalen Waddle?
Oh, give me Jalen Waddle all day, baby.
Quinshon Judkins, even TJ Hawkinson is going after LaPorta, and I think Hawkinson's usage is a little more. He's going to get targets. He's playing in an offense without the brain drain. I believe in JJ McCarthy. I mean, you can go get your RB2, wide receiver 3, or you can draft a tight end that is not going to earn a lot of targets and you're praying for touchdowns.
Mike, can I tell you something? I think there's a very similar guy in the same division, Tucker Kraft, who's going so many rounds later.
They're the same player.
They're the same player.
Yep.
The same player. And that offense is not changing with the new offensive coordinator and losing offensive linemen. If anything, that offense got better. We might see more scoring opportunities for him. So, it's not necessarily that I'm saying take Tucker Kraft over Sam LaPorta, but there's just guys that I'd rather have at better values later.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up specifically. Guys, head over to the Football Guys website because this is fantastic. You can go player stats, 2024 tight end. Boom. Sam LaPorta, we're talking about 60 receptions for 7 touchdowns. Fantastic. Love that. Tucker Kraft, 50 receptions for 7 touchdowns.
And he had a slow start too.
Is half a catch a game really worth 7 rounds of ADP?
It's crazy.
So yeah, I just think the value over replacement, we're not doing a good job there. But Evan, why is the best rookie receiver in history among any position going to be bad now?
It's not that he's going to be bad now, Mike, by any way, shape, or form. All right. He's still going to be fantastic. The issue is 12th overall. We are talking 12th overall when I can be building my fantasy team around some rock solid wide receivers in that range as well. You're talking some of the Nico Collins, you're talking some of the Drake London, AJ Brown. Those are wide receivers that I would rather be building my team around rather than the scarce tight end position, which I understand you're going to make an argument or somebody's going to make an argument. Positional advantage is so important, yada, yada, yada. All right, whatever. What does Chip Kelly hate to use historically when you look at college? Not so much in the pros, but in college, he hates to use tight ends. All right. We still got Pete Carroll there. What did Pete Carroll do in Seattle? Um, multiple tight ends. Okay, they still have multiple tight ends that they've invested rather high draft capital in. You pair that with a wide receiver group that is absolute dookie, because that's all you can say about this wide receiver group.
This is Jacoby Myers and Jack Besh slander. You just offended both me and Alfredo.
Yeah. Not my baby boy Besh. You got a 30-second timeout for you.
All right, fair enough. But you still took Genty. Chip Kelly loves to run the football. Pete Carroll loves to run the football. You combine both of those with Gino as the quarterback there, who is he's a quarterback that you take on your team as a franchise because you say, I don't want you to lose me the game. I don't need you to win me the game, but I just don't want you to lose me the game. And that's Geno Smith. He still slings the ball around. He still distributes to playmakers. But you look at Travis Kelce and his entire history. How many 150 target seasons did he have, Mike? 2.
Travis Kelce?
He's had 250 plus target seasons.
Yeah, but he's not as good as Brock Bowers, and we all know that.
Ooh, okay. Sure.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. Please don't come at me.
we will let that one slide right now. But 153 targets is insane. You try and replicate that once again in a passing offense that very well could be sitting at 350 pass attempts on the season. That would not surprise me at all.
350?
You think it's going to be 350? I think they're going to be behind.
You said the Raiders are going to have how many targets or how many pass attempts?
350.
That feels disrespectfully low.
Oh, well.
Okay.
This is my segment right now, Mike. Do I not get the filibuster here? All right. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna try not to lose the game on defense because this defense leaves a lot to be desired as well. So you pair all of that together, and Bowers, look, incredible player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm just saying for how you build fantasy teams, typically taking a tight end if he's going at 12, you're essentially taking him at the very end of the first round without a premium on top of it. I just feel like I'm going to be getting more points from other positions that are going to be more valuable.
I just put this in our private chat, but I did fact check you. I know you asked me not to fact check, but the Eagles were last in the league last year, and they had 425 pass attempts. The Raiders will pass at least 400 times. I will bet a lot of money on that.
Okay.
But no, the concerns about the passing volume are definitely valid. I guess the question, and I'll leave this up for either of you, is the passing volume going down? Is it offset at all by Geno Smith just being a better quarterback than anything the Raiders rolled out there last year?
Sure.
I would say absolutely. The Raiders were one of the worst in EPA per passing play last year, and Geno Smith going out there and being the quarterback for the Raiders is going to be very, very different. Now, the volume is likely to go down for Brock Bowers, and why I agree with the Brock Bowers not being a guy that I want to draft at his ADP actually has a lot less to do with what Evan said and more with the fact that I don't think that I'm getting the big point differential at the tight end position for the ADP disparity that I have here. For a guy who scored 15.5 PPR points last year, is the 3-4 rounds really worth the extra 2 points?
I don't think so.
It's not. Yeah. It's not. I mean, even George Kittle, who's going 2 rounds later, scored more points per game than him, and the situation for Kittle might actually be better. So I don't see the huge value in going for a guy like Bowers for the premium that you have to pay. However, I don't think that we're going to see some huge drop off. I think we're just going to see less target volume, but higher quality targets and more scoring opportunities in this offense. And Evan, I know there was supposed to be no fact checking here, but I'm going to do it as well. Chip Kelly had Greg Dulcich, and he used the hell out of that guy at UCLA. I know it's a once in a while type thing. College coaches tend to be a little more hamstrung by who they can recruit to their team. So, I tend to think Brock Bowers is just a different dude. Like, this isn't a classic tight end. They're putting him in the backfield. They're sending him in motion. There's a lot of things that he's going to be doing that's going to be very different.
Yeah, he is an elite athlete. But I am very much on the Trey McBride tight end 1 train.
Oh, so. I'm with you. I get it.
I think we're all in agreement. Trey McBride rules. George Kittle rules. Brock Bowers rules, but maybe may not be worth the cost.
Bingo.
But I think that does it for all of our players to avoid. If you guys need anything, go through the timestamps, click through, figure out what you want to figure out. But thank you so much for joining us, Alfredo. Do you want to tell people one more time where to find you and anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, you can find me on any of the social media apps. I'm at Alfredo A. Brown. You can always find me hosting the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show with my host Dave Kluge. And you know what, Mike? We have to have you on. Let's
I'm
chat.
super down.
Let's chat about when we can get you on. It's weird that we haven't had you on yet, but yeah, we'll get you on there. And then the other show that I host is Unbinged, where we get to talk about TV and movies and all the characters we love, from Harry Potter to Star Wars, all the nerdy stuff out there. We have a great time doing that every week. Fantastic.
As always, thank you guys for listening. We are close to our goal of 1,000 subscribers. So if you've heard this and you're still listening an hour in, you should subscribe so you can hear more of us. Maybe we'll have Alfredo on again if he wants to hang out with us, which I hope you do. But thank you guys. And Evan, I love you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to check out written content, head over to lastwordonsports.com.
Don't let the goblins get you.